Welcome back for a special new top 20 list. And in this edition, we are looking at, in my own personal perspective, 20 criminally underrated games for handhelds. So, with that said, curious to see what everyone's opinion is. What are some games you personally consider criminally underrated? But with that said, my assistant Cthulhu will be propping the game cases. So, thank you again, Cthulhu. First up, coming at number 20, is for the PlayStation Vita, is a game called Luminous Electric or Electronic Symphony. Basically, it's a sort of a merger of elements of a rhythm game mixed with, of course, elements of Tetris. Great game, and I think more people actually need to check out these games. If you like Tetris and Tetris clones, this is definitely a great game to play, especially if you enjoy, obviously, electronic slash techno music and stuff. You will definitely enjoy this as long as you like the gameplay style of Tetris-like games. It's an excellent one, and you can get this dirt cheap. It's one of the few relatively cheap and affordable games you can find on the Vita. Personally, I found this a few years back on clearance at Walmart. That's the thing, always check sometimes the clearance stuff in game section at Walmart's. Sometimes you can find surprise deals. Next, coming in at number 19, also for the PlayStation Vita. Arguably, of course, in my opinion, pretty much about maybe the most underrated or just about handheld of all time. But with that said, coming at number 19 is Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation, which was, of course, a branch off game of Assassin's Creed 3. Now, fun fact, Assassin's Creed 3 is my personal favorite AC game in the franchise. In a very close second place is Rogue. But for me, this is up there. I'm surprised more people have not played this game. Now, if you get the Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered, it also includes this game. This is a great, I think, side Assassin's Creed game. It's a lot of fun. It takes place in early New Orleans. I actually like the female protagonist of the game, and the fact different outfits give you certain special different things you can do in culture, so to speak. There are like three different variants of the character. You have the assassin side, you have the side that is dressed more like a very upper class type, and then of a outfit for looking like more lower class. People access different parts of the city and things. Also, the fact this is the first and only, surprisingly, Assassin's Creed game where the main protagonist is a woman, which makes the game, I think, quite interesting and different from other games in the series. Yes, others moving forward make it where you can choose which you want to be, male or female, but I appreciate the fact this was actually the first game to actually do a female character only, but really cool, and the gameplay itself is actually really fun, and I wish more people would give this game a shot. Coming in at number 18, for the 3DS. This was another game I surprisingly found on clearance, believe it or not, called Bravely Second, which is a direct sequel to the, I would say, arguably very beloved game called Bravely Default. But when people talk about stuff, they usually only talk about Bravely Default or the newer game, Bravely Default 2, and they skip over Bravely Second, which is unfortunate because this game, in its own right, is a superb classic JRPG game. Very much like the other games, it plays just as good. Why this game doesn't get the love that the others get, I do not understand or just don't get. But it's a game, if you like old school Square Enix JRPGs, this is really a game to get. And given the price this game goes for on average, I would say this is definitely a worth pickup game that I consider must play. Pretty much for anybody who collects for the 3DS, I definitely, or any fans of Square in general, you should really give this game a shot. Coming in at number 17 is the first and only, like, one of two FPS games on the list. Obviously, for the Vita, coming at 17 is a game called Unit 13. Now, it's only like the third shooter I have played on the Vita. I am surprised that this game does not get more attention because I feel Unit 13 should. It's actually a really great experience if you're looking for a really good, solid first person shooter on handheld. You can't go wrong, and the fact the price is very reasonable for this game, unlike many other games on the Vita. Um, if you get a chance, though, seriously, do yourself a favor, get this game. It's one of the best first person experiences when it comes to handhelds. Pure and simple. Coming in at 16 is a game that deserves so much more love than it gets, and that is Dissidia 012 Final Fantasy. The second of the three Dissidia games, arguably the best, in my opinion. Some people will argue the first game was the best. Arguably, at least in graphics and things, of course, NT is the best. But with that said, still, I will argue this is the best, and it's unfortunate that none of the games in the series have ever been humongous successes. Have been, for the most part, overlooked as just a small niche side series of Final Fantasy, and yes, I get where they're coming from, but this game is a great experience, especially on handheld. This is one of the best looking, I think, PSP games, pure and simple. From a graphic standpoint, the character's actually a lot of fun. I like the crazy over the top attacks and abilities you can do, and some of the awesome combination of matches and stuff you can have. I mean, the fact playing with Sephiroth, of course, but also awesome getting to play with I actually like the gameplay style of Jet, as well as also really like characters like X-Death, or of course Garland, as well as of course Kefka, and many other great villains in the series, as well as Ultima Cia. But with that said, seriously, get a chance, play some of the Final Fantasy Dissidia games. I specifically highly recommend checking this game out. It deserves a lot more love than it gets, and the soundtrack is just gorgeous. Next, coming at number 15 is probably going to be a controversial pick, and that's fine, but I'm going to say it. And that is Dead or Alive Extreme 3. I put in the top 20 underrated games for handhelds because it is underrated. Extreme 3, not looking at from the volleyball perspective, which, by the way, the actual volleyball gameplay is actually pretty solid and good, but no, the reason I highly recommend this game, and I think it should get more attention, is the actual other side, the casino side of the game. If you're looking for like a really good casino type of like simulator, or playing like classic casino games like blackjack and many other things, this is actually a really good series in all honesty, and I highly recommend checking out Extreme 3, or heck, Extreme 2, or Dead or Alive Volleyball, or just Extreme Volleyball, whatever. The point is, these games deserve more love than they get. The volleyball side of thing is actually pretty decent gameplay, and the actual casino stuff is actually a lot of fun. If you're looking for stuff like that, or play stuff like poker, I mean, this has got you stacked. If you're looking for that type of stuff, this is a great handheld experience to play a lot of classic casino games. So, with that said, I do recommend checking out, but of course you'll have to import it, unfortunately. Next, coming in at 14, is I think one of the best and most underrated RPGs on the original Nintendo DS, and that is Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Ring of Fates, which is actually a great game, and of course takes place in the Crystal Chronicles universe, which I actually love quite a bit. Now, surprisingly, I actually like some of the side Crystal Chronicle games actually more gameplay-wise than the original Crystal Chronicles on GameCube, though that game still has some nostalgia for me. But I think this is probably one of the best Final Fantasy games you can play on a Nintendo handheld, pure and simple. Surprisingly, the graphics look good. It's one of the better looking, I would say, Final Fantasy games on the handheld. But with that said, seriously, you get a chance, do yourself a favor and play Crystal Chronicles Ring of Fates. It is a great game and a great Final Fantasy in general. Next, coming in at 13, is one of, I think, the best, basically, Monster Hunter-esque type games, slash, with elements kind of remind me a little bit of like Dark Souls. And that is a great exclusive to the Vita called Soul Sacrifice. I would consider this probably one of maybe the top 10 must-play games on the Vita, pure and simple. If you like games where you fight giant monster creatures and stuff, Soul Sacrifice is arguably one of the best experiences on the Vita, though the Vita has no shortage of great games where you get to fight giant monsters. If you like Monster Hunter type like games similar to Monster Hunter, I would highly recommend Soul Sacrifice, and it's a shame this game does not get more attention than it deserves because it has some awesome monster creature designs and the combat is actually quite good as well. Next up, we're looking at an interesting fighting game that unfortunately this was only a Japanese exclusive release. It is called Soul Eater Battle. Yeah. Point is, this is a really cool 2.5D fighting game for the PSP that honestly I think is a superb game. If you ever get the chance, seriously, give this game a shot. It definitely deserves more love than it gets. It is mostly, a lot of the elements of the game is based more around, I would say, Season 2 of Soul Eater, and I would say if you do like good, solid fighting games and are looking for a good fighting game for the PSP, this is probably, I would say, one of maybe the top 5 best fighting games, or at least fighting games I've had the most fun with on the Vita. And of course, this is a Japanese import game only, unfortunately, which sucks, but some of the best games on the Vita are Japanese imports. I would say half the games on the Vita are import because of how well the Vita actually did in Japan. But this is a great game, as well as there are many great Gundam fighting games as well on the Vita. And there's a few, at least one or two more, I will be talking about on this top 20. But yeah, I do highly recommend giving this game a shot, especially if you're a fan of the Soul Eater anime series. Next up is another superb fighting game. This time, for the Vita, it is called Fighting Climax. Now, it has characters from multiple different animes, though obviously some of the best well-known, I would say, anime characters in this game are specifically from a little anime called Sword Art Online. So yeah, this is a game that I recommend more people check out. It's a great fighting game from Sega. And there is many different Sega references in this game. Like if you look in the backgrounds of some of the games, like an arcade and stuff, there are actually references to the Sega Saturn, of course, as you see right here, as well as there are references to the Sega Dreamcast as well in some of the backgrounds. And so, as a longtime Sega fan, I appreciate all these different references throughout the years. Especially any chance to see any references to the Dreamcast or the Saturn, I appreciate. But in general, it is actually a good game. If you like anime, Arc System Works type fine games, I think you'll actually enjoy this game quite a bit, and the price is still very reasonable. Next, we are now getting ready to enter the top. Next up, for exclusive to the 3DS, is the original classic Monster Hunter Stories, which of course not too long ago we got a sequel. But this is a game that definitely deserves more love and attention than it gets. It is basically what you get if you mixed Monster Hunter meets Pokemon It's the best way to describe this little niche series. And yeah, it's definitely niche. Just know the game is relatively pricey nowadays. Like, I believe last time I checked, this is going for on average about $60 right now. But you can get digitally for $40. So might look into getting it digitally also. If you have a 3DS, you need to be getting games as quick as possible before August, which I'll be talking about in a future video of games and stuff I've been picking up digitally on the 3DS as well as the Wii U, and some definite good recommendations I have. But yeah, if you get a chance, try out Monster Hunter Stories. It's a really fun, crazy game. Next, from Square Enix again, is in my opinion, the personal favorite of the Final Fantasy Tactics games, and that is War of the Lions. Arguably one of the best Final Fantasy games on the PSP, bar none. This game deserves so much more love than it gets in general. I think the Tactics series in general deserves more respect and love than it gets. Unfortunately, the Tactics series is a niche Final Fantasy series, unfortunately. So only people who actually love tactical style RPGs are really going to appreciate, though I think more people should give this game a shot because the gameplay is really fluid, very good. The music is great. I like the characters and everything, and I like the time period and everything in this series. It's very unique and different from AR Final Fantasy games, really. But seriously, give a shot, please. Give this series a chance if you have. If you have the DS, get the advanced, tactics games that are on the DS. Just give the series a shot. Next is arguably, in my opinion, the best shooting game experience on handheld. And that is a little game called Killzone Mercenary, which is pretty much probably my favorite or second favorite of the Killzone series. My personal favorite is probably the certain Killzone game that was the launch title for the PS4. Now, that game, of course, you can get dirt cheap for PS4. Unfortunately, not so much because of being Vita, unfortunately. But with that said, give Killzone Mercenary a shot. It's a first-person shooter, a great experience, and actually still has people playing occasionally online to this very day. Last time I checked the game, there was about probably close to 40 people actually playing Killzone Mercenary still online on servers on the Vita. So that says there is still a very hardcore devoted fan base. And speaking as a Vita fan, yeah, I'll be honest, it's a very hardcore, dedicated group of people. Me and many others, which will continue to love and appreciate the Vita when most people didn't even give it a shot. But if you have a Vita or you've thought about getting one, consider this a definite recommendation. Next is very unique, the only one for this console, and it is a unique card fighting game set in the Tekken universe. This game is called Tekken Card Fighter. Basically, it is was only released in Japan and only for the Bandai WonderSwan, which of course I've talked about in the past. I'm happy to actually have a WonderSwan color, which are pretty much dirt cheap in all honesty. This game is actually relatively very cheap. So if you have a chance to get a WonderSwan or a WonderSwan color, give it a shot, as it was the last device to ever be created by Gunpei Yokoi, creator of the Game Boy. But seriously, Card Fighter, this is a really fun and very unique Tekken game, to say the least. But it's actually a game that is definitely worth the shot and to try out. There's also many great Digimon games as well, and there's a couple of Final Fantasy games on the WonderSwan and a couple of Klonoa games as well. Next, we're getting ready to get at number 6, and that is Vampire Chronicle, known as Chaos Tower, also known as Darkstalkers Chronicle Chaos Tower. It's a very unique game where you can have customization and you have elements of Vampire Hunter as well as Vampire Savior, aka Night Warriors and Darkstalkers 3. But with that said, it's a very great combination, and the Chaos Tower is the reason to get this game and to give it a shot. Now, I believe digitally it may be available in the West. Otherwise, this was only released on the PSP and the Dreamcast in Japan. I recommend getting the PSP version as it is the cheaper alternative to the Dreamcast version. It's relatively affordable. It's actually really fun. It's great. It's actually a very solid, I think, port of Vampire 2 and 3, aka Darkstalkers. But now, if you are a hardcore Capcom fan or you appreciate good old school Capcom fighting games like Darkstalkers, give this a game a shot. It is more than worth the time. Coming in at number 5. Dead or Alive Dimensions, which is a game I've talked about more than once, and it's a game that deserves a lot more love and respect than it gets. And I love it, and the fact it does a great job sewing together stories from Dead or Alive 1 all the way to Dead or Alive 4. And the fact you can unlock and play with all the bosses in the series also makes this game awesome. And an incredible sized roster for a handheld fighting game. Number 4, that I think is criminally underrated and more people need to give a shot, is exclusive to, of course, the PSP, though you can get digitally also on the Vita. And that is Street Fighter Alpha 3 Max, which also has, of course, a special character, Ingrid, from Capcom Fighting Evolution, which is a great game, in my opinion, another criminally underrated game. But if you get a chance, this is the definitive version of Alpha 3 that more people need to give a shot, especially with the World Tour mode, which is coming back in Street Fighter 6, which is quite interesting to me. But seriously, get a chance, give this game a shot. Number 3 is Golden Sun Dark Dawn. Now, the Golden Sun series is relatively small and also, like many of the games here, very niche. But with that said, I highly recommend giving this game a shot. It is a great game, and I think more people need to give the Golden Sun series a shot. And while you have the opportunity, if you have a Wii U, go on the Wii shop, or Wii U, go on the Virtual Console shop, and pick up the 2 GBA games that were released, the original Golden Sun and the sequel. Now, I don't believe Dark Dawn is available on the DS side of things. I don't believe. But definitely take advantage and get some of the games as they are starting to go up in price. Dark Dawn only recently started seeing a small increase over time. The others are already very pricey. But get a chance, give this game a shot. Great puzzles. I think some of the best RPG puzzles I've seen in quite some time. And it is arguably probably my number 2 favorite RPG on the DS. So get a chance, give this or any of the games, frankly, in the Golden Sun series a shot. Number 2 is arguably my favorite Vita game of all time. And I will continue rooting and trying to tell people to give this game a shot, and that is Gravity Rush. Or Gravity Rush Remastered. But with that said, what game that I chose I think is the most criminally underrated of handhelds? Well, unfortunately for this game, one, it is only available physically through limited run games, unfortunately, as that means this game is very expensive. But it is a game that is so worth a great experience, not for the price. So if you can get this on PC, a much cheaper price range, do it. This was the only way, unfortunately, it was made available on any console or handheld platform, was through limited run, and that is Papers, Please. which is a great game by the, in my opinion, growing great of Lucas Pope, which created this and also another game I highly recommend checking out, Return of the Obra Dinn. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe, and yet, number one, if you get a chance and a shot, check out Papers, Please. The reason why I don't recommend going after the Vita limited run version of this game, because you're going to be showing out well over $100 for it. That's what happens when it's the only available version. There's not even a digital version, I believe, of this game on the Vita, like PSN. Not 100% certain, but last time I checked it wasn't. But if you get a chance, check Papers, Please out. Seriously, it's a great, unique experience unlike any other, and I could say also the same thing for Return of the Obra Dinn. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time, same YouTube channel. Stay safe, working on some special reviews, as right now I'm on vacation. So I'm taking advantage, trying to work on some other stuff. And coming in the next few days will be part 1 of a 2-part special of the top 50 best-selling video games of all time. Also, I have 2 special comic book videos coming in the near future. A couple of the freebie a few months. 1, this, and 2, looking back, taking a trip down memory lane of Pokemon. Of really the first episode of the anime series, but in comic book form. But with that said, I'll see everyone next time. Same YouTube channel. Stay safe out there, everyone.